Thank you so much, Ken, for this time that we have together, and I'm eager to ask you some questions about your ministry, and I know that our people back home would love to get to know you and the ministry of Ethnos a little bit, and so thank you for giving me this time where we can chat together. The first question that I wanted to ask, Ken, is just wanted to get to know you a little bit more. So could you just talk a little bit about your background, where you come from, where you grew up, and specifically how the Lord calls you into a lifetime of missions work?
Yeah. Thank you, Pastor Joe, for asking. I grew up in the rural on a farm. So I'm thinking US terms, it would be rather a ranch. And there in nature, I always knew that God is the creator, because nature is so phenomenally planned. You cannot even think of a chance meeting that all this beautiful planning in nature could just happen. So yeah, there I already had a deep conviction that there is a creator, and I grew up in a nominal Christian home. And as a young child of about 9 or 10, I saw a message about the cross, and I really came to know the Lord, but there was nobody to disciple me. So over time I drifted away, and until I met the Lord again when I was at university. So the moment I grasped the forgiveness and the love of Christ, I was hooked on to serving Him with all my heart, with all my mind, with all that I have, because the thought of God loving the world, loving me, was so huge. And with it, the fact that I am even being able to journey with the Lord in seeking and saving those that are lost, those that are poor, those that are desperate for the love of their Creator. So right from day one, I was sold out. I didn't know what missions was. But I wanted to be available to the Lord where the need was maybe the biggest. I love the local church, but I know there's many Christians in the local church. And therefore I said, Lord, I will go wherever. It is the hardest places, it's fine with me. So I was a little bit like Isaiah saying, here am I, Lord, send me. Since then, we have been missionaries all over the world, in India, in North Africa, South Africa, Southern Africa, stayed a long time in Zambia, had a sort of a ministry spanning over all the major religions of the world, church planting, schools, orphans. We adopted ourselves a lot of children, me and my wife. Some of them were disabled. We worked in human trafficking. We did sustainable ministry projects. Yeah, so wherever the need is, I'm there. But my heart is throbbing for those who have no opportunity to hear the good news of Jesus.
With you having been involved in all of these different things and having made yourself available to the Lord wherever He may call you, I do want to ask about the genesis of Ethnos. So can you talk a little bit about how Ethnos came to be and what drove you towards founding this organization?
Yeah, I've been part of some phenomenal mission teams, and in that time we saw a lot of fruit all over the world, and a lot of things that the Lord was busy doing, and I'm so joyful that I could have experienced it. But deep down within me, there was always this question, is there more? Is there more that we can do? The needs are so massive. And I started to realize that just like the sons of Issachar, we need to discern the times. We need to be creative, finding new ways. There is this story about the little boy that was walking next to the beach, and the starfish was washing up on the beach, and he would pick up some starfish, rescuing them, throwing them back. And a bystander came and says, what difference do you make? Look at all the starfish. And he picked up another one and he put it back, and he says, well, for that one I've made a difference. And I like the story very much, and the value that God places on one. But I didn't like the strategy too much. I wanted the boy to go and get all of his friends and let them come and help him. And then I thought to myself, but with all these needs of earthquakes and tsunamis and growth in population and COVID, and maybe we should put machines into the hands of all of those kids, putting the starfish in. Maybe we should have a missional industrial revolution for that matter. So I started to do research on how we could potentially, with much less resources, in a much bigger way, reach all the remaining unreached people groups in the world. And I think sometimes we are so busy focusing on the how that we are not finishing the task. And so this was a way of making it much more simple and much more effective. And when I got that picture and possibility, nothing could stop me. So that's when we started Ethnos. And yeah, it's a couple of years going, and our partnership with Joy Christian Fellowship is just so appreciated.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And it is just inspiring for me to just hear your passion for the nations and for the lost, and so I really appreciate that. Can we talk a little bit more about kind of the ministry philosophy of Ethnos? And so when you talk about the strategy, and I know we had several conversations about it, and I think our people back home would appreciate hearing a little bit more about the kind of strategy that got put on your heart in terms of how to reach the lost, and what really kind of distinguishes Ethnos in the way it carries out its ministry.
Yeah. I think the big question is always resources. Rightly so, pray the Lord for the harvest, to send more workers, because the fields are ripe. And I realized that with supported missionaries, or professional missions, if you like, the professional missionary going to the unreached people group, we will struggle to get enough support to sort of send the needed army. So that led us in the research to say, how can we equip local grassroots movements? How can we make every Christian close to and in the countries where we are facing a missionary? That's not necessarily supported financially, but just supported by prayer, and create entry strategies for people that do not have to learn new languages, for instance, that's not dependent on financial giving and so on. So the whole idea came that we would place well-trained, small, nucleus, catalyst, full-time supported missionaries in each country, and they will train up and mobilize local churches, local Christians from universities, helping them to see where exactly in their own country there is unreached peoples, and then help them to apply for jobs there or to start new small businesses in that area, but as a church planting team, while the catalyst keeps on investing, keeps on training, keeps on encouraging. And until each country, in each unreached people group in that country have been reached with the good news of Christ. So that is, in essence, if we are praying, Lord, please raise up more workers, we have to think that there is no other way than to get every Christian involved in the Great Commission. And so that's the basic premises, which is much clearer and closer to Scripture than having only a small team of professional missionaries going out there.
Yeah, and thank you so much for that. And I know that from our previous conversations around this strategy, I was reminded once again, as I take back with me lessons for our own context at Joy, I was just reminded that really the work of supporting missions is not a one-sided relationship where we happen to be the ones that are sending support and you're the one that's receiving support, because I received so much, and I know that the fruit that will be born out of these insights in the ministry of our church is really indicative of the fact that it's a two-way relationship, right? And it's really more about fellowship than it is just about cold transactional support. And so really, really appreciative of your insight and the way you're doing ministry.
Maybe I can just explain a more practical way of how such a strategy took place. One of our team members was a MBB, or Muslim background believer, and she came and she says, Koen, I'm have tasted the goodness of the Lord and His grace, and she was just on fire to go. And I said to her, please don't. Let us rather help you to be a salt and a light in the specific Pakistani area. So I asked, what did the Lord place in your hand? She said, well, I've got a hair salon. And the hair salon is in this specific mall in this big city. And I knew that many of the other small shop owners were from Muslim background or were Muslims, and also some secular people. So we helped her to establish a small little room at the back of her salon. And then she started intentionally to invite the other shopkeepers when they take their lunch break, or the workers, to come there to where she have this little cozy nook, and they could have a cup of coffee while they take their lunch break. And she was intentionally in that time just loving on them. Wow. And then we helped her to start to reach out through to her clients that would come. And not only that, we started to bring people from, especially ladies from very poor backgrounds, and she taught them in her salon how to do hair, while she was also discipling them and teach them how to bring the good news to Christ. So single-handedly through her hair salon, she basically planted the whole church and amongst a complete unreached people group. And so I think we need to be creative and trust the Creator through His Spirit to enable us, to show us the 2 fish and the 5 loaves of bread that is in our hands, and see us the thousands that's needing feeding. And so, it's a different way, but very effective indeed.
Yeah. And it's such a groundbreaking, paradigm-shifting way of how we look at world missions and the way it was usually done in the past. And so
so for me, every business owner, every person that have an occupation, I sit with them and we pray and ask the Lord for a specific strategy for that specific business or job, and also to inspire people who have the means to transplant or their business with missionaries into other countries. And that's another way for us to get there. And there is still profit involved for the investor. And our missionary have a place in the unreached country to work and to be intentional and to bring people to Christ.
That's amazing. I was going to hold this question off until later, but I have to ask it now. I mean, I'm just so excited to ask this of you. It seems like in the approach that you took with the hairdresser, I see a really interesting intersection of missions and discipleship really coming together in cool ways in order for a grassroots movement of the gospel to come forth. And so having said all of that, is there a word that you would like to give to our people in the context of New Jersey, and as we look to reach the New York metropolitan area with the gospel of Jesus? Are there any specific things that you'd like to say to our people in light of the story that you just shared?
Pastor Joe, I'm African. I never have only one word. So, so the first word is intentional living. But together with intentional living comes another word, and that is praying and planning. Many of us have all the good intentions to live intentionally in our workplace, but we are not taking the time to sit and plan the specific outcomes. And then the third word is accountability. When we are going to our workplaces, if we are not accountable with specific goals and in a group, our workplace swallows us in. Because there's always something more. It's always secular, it's always liberal. And before we know, we are just where we have been, doing nothing, just working. And I think if you can combine to have intentional living, but you are understanding what's your priorities through good planning, through specific praying through certain strategies that you want to implement, and there's people that make sure that the world is not pulling you in, and that is saying, hey, you are a missionary there, okay, let's evaluate, let's make some changes on your strategy, what's not working. So that is the first very big thing that needs to happen. Our minds needs to be transformed. We cannot see the 2 fish and the 5 loaves of bread as only our own food for the day. we need to understand that 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread will feed us, but there is so many hungry people right around us. And that 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread is for them too. We just need to know who to give it to.
Wow, that's such a challenging word, I'm sure, for our people that are going to be watching, but for myself as well as a pastor, as we think about strategizing our discipleship in our church. So really, really thank you for those words. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the different ministries of Ethnos. Now, coming here, I've heard about the different ministries of Ethnos, about Door of Hope, about Azaria, about the church plant that is the Well, and about the missionaries that are being sent overseas. And it really wasn't until that I came here that I got to see firsthand how all of those ministries, both locally and globally, all come together in this beautiful organic connection that is formed in all of that has a singular rationale and a vision. And so I love it if you can share a little bit of that and how they all connect together in one master plan.
Well, I would liken it to an orchestra. There is different instrument in the band, and each one on their own, I guess, can play a good tune or a big, beautiful music. But there's nothing like orchestra, full orchestra, playing in harmony together. And that's how I always saw the body. The whole body function together. So when we are starting a ministry, it's not in isolation. It's part of the symphony of worship to the Lord. The other thing is, I would like to squeeze out of every opportunity, every drop to the glory of the Lord. Not being content with a boring life, being content with tenfold fruitfulness. The Lord have given us the opportunity, so how can we make more out of the opportunity to His glory? And that's why we need to connect. So everything is interactive. When we have the training of missionaries, they are seeing different ministries working in tandem together. They are exposed. They are being trained in this ministry so that they can take it with them. And if we are working with a woman coming off the streets as prostitutes, we have got Azaria that's training them. Because if you are coming off the streets and you give your life to Christ, but you have no education, no work, you need to find a place to contribute. And it's not only for your own family, you also need to contribute to kingdom extension. Not only through your testimony, but also through your finances, through your skills. So we send them there, but at the same time, what happened to their teenage sons and daughters, and what happened to their husbands if they do have some. So we have got a construction company, and the kids, the small kids going to our creche. And while the mummies and daddies are busy getting skills trained, the children get the love of Christ in a safe place with food and so forth. And that, of course, serves again as a platform for our missionaries to learn how to do all of these things. So yeah, everything is interconnected. Nothing is standing on its own. Every one of it have more than just a direct purpose.
Yeah. And one of the coolest things that I've seen was, as I see people from all over the world coming to be trained through Ethnos, really just all of these ministries that take place right here in George, South Africa, really acts as a hands-on training ground for these missionaries that will then be deployed overseas. And so while much of missions training that I've seen would be somewhere remote, and it would be a training center there and largely academic, and before they're deployed overseas, and they're having to then learn on the ground as they are deployed on mission there. I really love the approach that you took with Ethnos, where it's hands-on. Of course, I've seen the students study quite a bit, so there's an academic portion to their training that's really good and valuable. But the fact that they're also getting hands-on training with these ministries that already exist on the ground, so that they can be equipped to do similar things overseas, I thought was one of the coolest things that I saw here.
Maybe just to lean on into that, we have done a lot of teaching courses, missional teaching courses, and then to bring in the practical, we sent the next couple of months after the classroom course people into a short-term outreach. But it's never the same because it stays a short-term outreach. It stays, we are going, we are seeing, we are ministering, and most of that training is more short-term programming. So what we wanted to do different is to put long-term work to bring in some of our students into a long-term ministry. Now that have a different feel to it. That's much more training than teaching. It's much more interning and getting to the real phase of long-term missions, because the short-term program or the short-term outreach have its place in the broader body. But for a long-term missionary, it's not really training them how to deal with things that is it's more sustainable and so on. So you have observed very well, we try to simulate real life ministry in a much more intentional way.
So Ken, as we close out this interview, I did want to ask, I know we talked a little bit about it, but if you could talk a little bit about the vision that you have for Ethnos in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the context, of course, that Jesus is our vision. His kingdom is our vision. His worship from every part of the earth. You know, like Habakkuk is saying, may the glory of the knowledge of the Lord cover the earth as the water covered the sea. And I would say that's pretty much what we are all about. To see that every single unreached people group in Africa and in the world receive the good news or a chance to respond to the offer of love from the Lord.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Thank you so much, Ken. And I also know that a lot of this work also involves a beautiful facility that's called Carmel, which for all of you watching at home, you really have to see it to believe it. I'm sorry, I tried taking pictures. But I also know that you have big dreams in regards to Carmel, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Pastor Joey, you see, the first thing we need to overcome is a lack of belief. There's so many of us that is so limited in our view of the possibility for the Lord to use us in our generation to see all the peoples of the earth having the opportunity to respond to the Lord, to see the gospel go to all the remaining 3,600 unreached people groups. And so in a big way, the Lord is calling us to climb out of the boat, just like Peter in this time. But we are also giving an opportunity to steward and to be good stewards of this commissioning. Now, yeah, you see, if we get this opportunity through the talents, we have to work with it. Carmel is just that. For us to see the gospel go, we need to have a solid training place where we can train key leaders that could set these grassroots movements alight. We call them catalysts. And the Lord have given us a place called Carmel that is beautiful, but it's also giving us the ability to be a self-sustained ministry right there for all of the training. And yes, we need some partnering to make this dream a reality, to train the catalysts, to go to each of these countries, to put the fires on for the gospel. So yeah, we would invite people from Joy to come, and during holidays to come on short-term outreaches and so on. That would be just awesome.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ken. And we're continuing to pray and to support you, Ethnos, and the rest of the work that God is doing here at George. So thank you.
Thank you so much.